All right, good afternoon. You guys could do better than that. Good afternoon. All right, so my name is Dr. Chinenye Ofodile. I serve as the chair of Math, Computer Science, and Physics here at the university. So today we are celebrating seniors from our department who have indulged in several projects with the Marine base, which you guys will be seeing shortly. So upon taking the position in 2020, I noticed that many of our students were receiving employments outside of the Albany area. So one of the main things, or one of the visions, was to find a way to implement or incorporate our community in this initiative. And so one of our classes, the senior project, our capstone course, was to find a way to have a lot of senior projects from several corporate sectors. And so today we want to thank the Marine base for allowing us to partner up, and you guys will be able to see the product eventually in a couple of minutes. So in the summer of 2024, we began to revise our curriculum, particularly our senior project, our capstone course. This was a collaboration with several of our programs, mathematics and also computer science. And so today, this fall, we had 11 students who had the opportunity to work, partner with several individuals and personnel at the Marine base. And so I definitely want to thank the Marine base personnel and all that were involved in this initiative. So before I sit, I would like to acknowledge some of the key personnel from ASU that have been working tremendously hard behind the scenes to make this initiative happen. First and foremost, our interim provost, Dr. Porter, who is here, my direct boss, the Dean of College of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Melanie Hatch. Want to acknowledge the professor of the capstone course, Dr. Okonkwo, Professor Little, who serves as our computer science coordinator, and Dr. Kunwar, who serves as our math coordinator. Last but not least, I would like to thank all our students, 11 students that participated in this initiative. We had 11 students, and some of the students in this presentation, you will see some of their products. And I would like to say, and thankfully, that in spring 2025, when we come back in January, we have 14 students that will continue this initiative as well. And so before I take my seat, I would like to now call up Mr. Michael Rowell.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Rowell. I'm the acting director for the Analytic Support Division in the Command Data Analytics Office. So it's my honor to welcome our LawCom leadership today, Major General Preventlow and Sergeant Major Drexel. Thank you both for taking time to join us today. I'd also like to extend our gratitude to Albany State. Your partnership on this and your support has made this a successful program. None of this would be possible without our dedicated mentors that we've had. So I'd like to take some time to personally thank them for really investing in these students and taking a lot of their personal time to mold the next generation of leaders that we're going to have here. So on that, I'd like to introduce Captain Johnson and Jason Terry as the mentors. And Captain Johnson, if you'd like to come up.
So good afternoon, General, Sergeant Major, esteemed ASU faculty and staff. My name is Lane Johnson. I got the privilege of being Devaugh's mentor for this semester. So a little bit about this project. This project was brought to us by Mr. Ryan Burns, who's seated behind Dr. Ofodile. He works at LawCom, and he works in an organization that's responsible for supporting the acquisition and fielding of new equipment to the Marine Corps. So the hope is that this project can inform and influence some of the decisions that he's making on his end. So this project is by no means done, so it'd be a perfect project for one of the spring interns to take and continue running with. Before I hand it over to Devaughn, I just want to highlight a few things about him and brag on him. So he's an extremely bright young man who exuded confidence even in a foreign environment like LawCom. Should have seen him walk around the hallways, looked like he'd worked there for 20 years. He came every day with a hungry attitude and humble, willing to learn. So that's all the different technologies like Power BI, DAX, SQL, even some of the Marine Corps lingo, acronyms, jargon, all that stuff. He came with a willing mind to learn, so we appreciate him for that. Additionally, One thing that really stands out about Devaughn is his commitment to the internship. So like some of the other students, he didn't have a vehicle for most of the internship, so he always found a way to get to the base, whether that was taking a friend's car, catching a ride with someone, or even paying out of his own pocket to take a Lyft or an Uber. So that speaks to his commitment. And lastly, on his commitment, I know he's committed to this internship because when I got into the office this morning, I saw a time-stamped file that he sent at 2 a.m. this morning preparing for this project. So thank you, Devaughn, and with that, I'll hand it over to him to present his project.
Thank you, Captain Johnson. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Devaughn Clarke. I am a computer science major here at Albany State. I am from Orlando, Florida, and I am a graduating senior. That was my mentor that just spoke, Captain Lane Johnson. And today, I will be presenting on the initial issue provisioning for the Rogue vehicle. Now, I understand some of you are wondering, what did I just say? Initial issue provisioning, also known as IIP, is a process of determining the range and quantity of items required to support and maintain an item for an initial issue period of service. In cases where we use IIP, as whenever we have a new weapon system or a new anything rollout, we get an IIP which has a list of parts required to support that vehicle or that weapon for a certain amount of time. Now that I was able to give you a little information about our project, let's give you some background information on how we got started. Our motivation. If we look on the picture on the left, boxed in the green, this is the remotely operated ground unit for expeditionary fires, also known as the Rogue vehicle. The Rogue is part of a complex weapon system called the Navy Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System, also known as the NMESIS. The Rogue is a transportation unit for this weapon system. Since it is a new system, we require an IIP for this vehicle to find out the amount of parts we need for its fielding. Now with the Rogue, we also have a vehicle that's made by the same manufacturer, known as the vehicle is known as the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle, also known as the JLTV. If you look and observe, you can see most of the parts as in the base, as in the wheels and the framework is kind of the same. Essentially, in my eyes, the Rogue is the JLTV without the captain. If we in a perfect world, we'll be able to take the IIP for the JLTV and cross-reference it for common parts within the Rogue and use that to create an IIP for the Rogue. However, when we spoke to our stakeholder, we found out that there were large margins of error within the IIP for the JLTV. When the JLTV was debuted, there was $13.5 million worth of parts included in the IIP, which went unused, with $9.7 million worth of that money. Those parts had absolutely zero demand. Also, we had $27.7 million worth of parts that were needed but not included in the IIP. Numbers this big would raise concerns and questions for everybody. So the first question we need to answer is, what is our problem? The problem that we aim to solve is the Marine Corps requires an improved approach to assess initial issue provisioning needs that minimizes expenses while ensuring combat readiness. Now that we understand our background, now we understand our problem, and we also have a potential solution. The step is to define what common parts we have between the JLTV and the Rogue vehicle. There we go. All right. This is our common parts history table. What this table consists of is historical maintenance data for the JLTV. What we have here is most parts we have most parts used. The way we organize these tables, we have by quantity and also by cost and parts usage over time. What this table shows is anytime these parts will be reported in the service report for maintenance, it is tracked and is reported. And we can also report these over across, not only can report how many times these items were popped up in maintenance, but also the organizations that these parts were utilized in. If a user were to use this dashboard, they will be able to sort the time period. Right now, currently, we have the last year. You would also be able to sort between months, weeks, or even days. If we were to look at organizations, if we wanted to focus on, for example, 1 MEF, 2 MEF, and 3 MEF, 1 MEF being the West Coast of the Marine Corps, 2 MEF being the East Coast of the Marine Corps, and 3 MEF being Marines overseas, we see that our tables repopulate and adjust accordingly. We're also able to sort by service request type. If we look, we see maintenance PM, which would be preventative maintenance. We can also sort these by mods, with MOD, which is modifications which are utilized on these parts. Also, we're able to focus in on specific parts. If we look at most used parts by cost, at the top we see that we spend quite a lot of money on engines. If I were to click on engines, you can see the tables repopulate accordingly. If we go to most used parts, we can see in 1MEF and 2MEF we're utilizing 6 engines, while in 3MEF we're utilizing 10. And at the bottom we have the parts usage data over time. This allows us to view how these parts are used, seasonal data on how these parts are used within certain month periods. Now that we have our common data, we're able to use these data and the numbers for these parts to make a projection for the rogue vehicle, which leads us to our rogue IIP determination. The way this table is constructed and operates, we have a set value for our JLT population considered, which is 2,450. Here, our user would be able to enter their projected road quantity, so how many vehicles they project to field, and also they're able to set a budget. If we look on the table on the left for recommended IIP parts list, this right here is our IIP. The way this table is constructed, we get the average demand by using the data we used in the last slide. Average demand, we take the amount of times these parts pop up in the maintenance report and reference to the population considered, which is the 2,450, which gives us the average demand number, and we also get the units price for each specific part. What this table does, it'll take those numbers, calculate that, and we get a projected part demand for the road, while also taking a running total of the cost. What this does, not only does it print what we need, but also whatever budget we set, it would able to print these parts within our budget. If I were to change our budget, let's say our budget instead of 800,000, we were to switch to 600,000. Our table will repopulate. You see it says we'll be able to purchase, it recommend us to purchase 7 engines, and it shows that our projected cost fits within our budget. However, we see that the table on the right has one completely blank. The table on the right refers to our DLA data. DLA is essentially the Amazon for the Marine base. This is where we order our parts and supplies to support our Marines in the field. Anything with a red diamond is something where DLA is not the main supplier. We would get this from somewhere else. If I were to change this back from 600 to 800,000, we see our parts on the side of parts ability. We once again have parts that are populated. If we were to focus on a certain part, let's look at recommended IIP parts and click on the support axle. We can see, okay, DLA is the main supplier for this part. SOH on that table stands for supply on hand. That is currently what DLA has on hand, is in their inventory. The annual consumption quantity is how much of that part we use per year, not only what we project for the Rogue and our demand, but also what is used for other vehicles. That constitutes to why the color of the supply on hand is red. This table, it has colored conditions. Red represents the projected demand exceeds what our supply on hand is, and also that our get well date is outside of 12 months. Get well date is essentially a restock date, meaning that currently what we have is under what we projected, and we don't have another guaranteed restock within the next 12 months or greater than the next 12 months. If I'm able to click out, we can see green. Green means that our supply on hand can support 12 months worth of demand. If we were to have a case where it's yellow, let me scroll down, such as the wiring harness, it means that our projected demand exceeds our current supply on hand, but we have a get well date set within the next 6 months. If we had a case where it was orange, that means our projected demand exceeds the supply on hand, but we have a get well date within the next 6 to 12 months. Essentially, to summarize this database, what our user would do, they would come in, put their projected road quantity, set their budget, and they will be able to print not only a list of the recommended parts that they will be able to purchase that fits within their budget, but also be able to cross-reference with DLA on what parts are available. Future work. Things in the future that we would like to see implemented into this project. Enhance the IIP forecasting approach, which is currently naive. Currently, the way our approach is forecasted, we're just keeping it very simplistic. In the future, we would like to include factors such as, for these parts, taking in aspects of climate. where these parts are being used, limitations, how hard are these vehicles being pushed, and also who are using these vehicles, so we can make views on changes. Also, too, to refine the prioritization of parts, which is currently based on cost from highest to lowest. For making the ranking for the IIP, currently we have whatever parts are highest in cost, those are higher in priority. We want to be able to change the prioritization to where it can be on a more equal level for all parts.
Good morning, or good afternoon. I'm Jason Terry. I was the mentor for Ms. Ashanti Hart and Ms. Okoro. So the project we kind of picked for them, they are both computer science majors with minors in mathematics. So let's get into some computer science and math. We had a weapons system manager that was curious about being able to predict for ELUMP his RCT. What's ELUMP? Enterprise Logistics Management Planning, sir. Predicting when. Terrible with acronyms, so we just assume people know. Yes, sir. Predicting when his particular PEI was inducted during a year, when it would be produced, and if, since LawCom currently uses one number for all that planning, if it would affect the time of year or when it was inducted would affect its production. So, and that's a pretty difficult ask for anybody and project. So I would like to say Ashanti and Ella knocked it out of the park. They're both, it takes 2 minutes speaking with them to realize how intelligent they are. But I think what a lot of people miss is actually their time management and planning abilities. To put that in perspective, Ms. Ashanti was a equipment manager for the football team this entire time, as well as a full-time student. For one of our conferences, she actually called in from New York to make sure that she was actually participating. The same with Ms. Okoro. They're very dedicated. They put in many hours into this and use multiple programs. So with that, I'll turn it over to you ladies, and I'll be your slide clicker.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I will be going over our topic of repair cycle time prediction, RCT. First I will be going over its background and the purpose. RCT stands for repair cycle time. It measures how long we induct an item and how long we can get it back out to our senders or receivers. Our main type is the default level for the default level repairable items. It ensures proper planning and supports smooth logistic operations. Repair cycle time is a critical part of our lifestyle management of equipment, making sure our items are serviceable to send back out to our Marines and whoever else. To verify that our cycle time is accurate, we need to use an appropriate margin of error, and it helps effective scheduling and operational support. If we were to get our item back too early or get the item back out to our senders too early, it will cause a problem for us. We'll basically have to pay the workers overtime, and if the item is late, we'd be paying the workers just to sit there and do nothing. In scope is basically what our project consisted of, what we did. Our LA data from the system of record and data trends. Out of scope was out of our context of the project since we were CDAO. That was mainly with the MDMC, the Marine Default Maintenance Center, with the causation of data trends and the planning process. Our main point of contact is Mr. Jason Terry, and our alternative was Captain Lane Johnson, me, Ashanti Hart, and Okoro, are your ASU interns, and our weapons system manager was Cal Lucky. The data source that we used was our master data repository, also our MSST tool, master scheduling support tool, using SQL, Shiny on RStudios, R, and Microsoft Excel.
And also, when it comes to our project, we started our project going in with a couple of assumptions. One of the assumptions is assuming that the data in MDR is accurate, as it also is the system of record and is the historical record for our LAV and also other lines inside the military. And this was very important, especially for the induction and production date. And also, we assumed that any product that was under 50 calendar days or had a production date of under 50 calendar days was not a full repair of 120 days, which is normal for an LAV 25 or any LAV. So we assumed it was a modification and not a full repair. And also for an induction date or for a product to have an induction date without a production date, we're assuming either that the item is still currently being repaired upon or the item was possibly cut. So we plan to take this out of our data set, so we don't want it to affect the RCT model. And then anything that was repaired by the MISRA or a third party, we wanted to make sure we took that outside of our data for our model, since we want this to just be specifically for depot RCT. And also for our methodology, we had 7 main points. The first one being determining the requirements and deliverables. And so, of course, we knew what our project was going to be, but we needed to know what that required. And then also breaking that down into small, manageable chunks so that we can complete the project in a timely manner, which then led us to determining the data that we needed, which then we started looking inside of the MDR, specifically in MIST, and we figured out that's what we would need, and that's the data location. So we then procured the data from MIST from 4 specific tables, which led us to go into our data review and familiarization step, where we looked inside of those tables. We noted specific things like, for instance, this table has a production date that goes to 50 days. We don't need that, so we're going to drop that. If there was anything that had blanks or was omitted, of course, we're going to drop that as well. And so that also led us to the next step, which was the data cleaning, where we then took all of that information and we used SQL to query and basically drop all of that. And that also led to our data transformation, where we then merged the 4 tables that we used into one major table after we cleaned all of the data so that we have one clean major set. And then after we did all of that, we then had to determine what model we were actually going to use to create the model. So we landed upon a weighted average for our model, and then after we had our weighted average, we then took our tables that we had cleaned, we sent it inside of R, which is what we used to code in. We created our Chinenye app and our studio, and then after creating it, it then led us to the testing stage, and then also got us ready for our version 1 release. And so now we'd like to go into a tiny bit of a demonstration of our Chinenye app. So what you see currently, this is a seasonality depictor or a graph that shows basically the seasonality by month of the LAV, and it's based off the induction date and how long it would take to basically produce the item if you induct the program. And another part of our app is the calculator, where you can actually select your induction date. Let's do January 31st. That's my birthday. And so as you can see at the top, it gives you your estimated production date, and we also have our upper bounds for the extreme case. And then also we have our repair cycle time days for the mean and also the standard deviation as well. And just to show the seasonality of the data as well, we can choose another date. Want to do September? Let's do September 6th. September 6th. So, as you can see, it shows our estimated production date. As you can see, it has changed from January. January was around 133 days, which you can see there. Now it's at 183 days. But if you don't want to get too into depth into it, you can also see from the monthly statistics depictor that it matches what the calculator is. And also, for future uses, our weapon system manager, who is our stakeholder, and also our customer for this project, will plan to use our RCT calculator in the upcoming year in 2025. And also, for CDAO, they plan to connect this to MDR to ensure that all of the current data is being put inside of our tool so that it can stay updated and give you accurate information. And then CDAO also plans to extend this line to multiple items or multiple tabs in the future.
So I interned at the ESCT department where I was supervised by Mr. Amos and Ms. Rowland. And my partner was Zaria Scott, and the duration was from August 28, 2024 to December 3rd, 2024. So this internship provided me with hands-on experience with tasks like stick scan analysis, system recovery, and source code analysis. The tasks that were given helped me with my technical and analytical skills, and it also helped with my exposure to different application tools. So my first task was the stick scan analysis. So sticks provide standardized rules for organizations to self-audit their security posture. And the process includes generating XML files and then importing the file into the stick viewer to analyze open and unreviewed findings. So this is an example of a stick checklist. So after importing the XML file into the stick viewer, it is going to generate a stick checklist. And right here, it shows not a finding, not applicable, open, and not reviewed. My duty was to work through the opens and the not reviewed. And under this discussion, it shows what the problem or the vulnerabilities were. And then under the check text is where I would usually get the suggestions on how to fix the problem. My third task was a source code analysis. I conducted an analysis using Fortify SCA, which is a static code analyzer. And it is a tool that scans source codes for vulnerabilities, and it also identifies weaknesses. And after running the Fortify scan, I documented the findings in a detailed workbook that's usually generated by the scanner. So I also had the opportunity to learn about network and system configuration. So I configured account lookout policies, set up network devices, and also used the NMESIS scanner to detect and address vulnerabilities. These are some of the skills and competencies that I gained during my internship. So I learned to use a Fortify scanner, how to run a stick scan analysis, enhanced my skills in the system recovery and network setup, and also improved my knowledge of compliance evaluation. So compliance evaluation is the process that an organization uses to make sure that the system or the actions adhere to the standardized laws or policy. And these are my lessons learned. So I learned that it's important to document everything, especially in the cybersecurity field, because we want to ensure clarity, consistency, compliance. It also helped me with, the internship also helped with my time management skills, because I was only on the base on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 5, so I had to maximize my time by balancing learning and also completing my tasks. I gained a deeper understanding of the importance of system security, and I also learned to use tools like NMESIS Scanner and Fortify SCA. Thank you for your attention. Are there any questions?
Let's give our students one more round of applause. So as you can see, our students work tremendously. This is in addition to their other classes that they are taking simultaneously here on campus and finding a way to ensure that these projects are fulfilled. And especially these students being the first cohort for this whole initiative laid the ground foundation and allowed the Marine base, and I thank you all for giving us the opportunity to come back in the spring 2025 to continue this partnership. We will now close, but before we close, I would like to call on some of the ASU stakeholders to give any vote of thanks or word of inspiration. Dr. Porter, who serves as our interim provost here at the university, and Dean Hatch, who is the Dean of College of Arts and Sciences.
Good afternoon. I'm Melanie Hatch. I'm the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. And I would just like to say to all the folks from the Marine Base, we are so deeply grateful for your time and the work that you have done in helping our students further their learning. I'm a former operations research analyst myself, and so I understand the value of these real-world experiences that come to our students that are going to help them in their career. I understand that a few have also gotten job offers, and that's what this is all about, is when we partner with practitioners who kind of help us put theory into practice. So again, thank you all, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the spring and the continuation of this great work together.
Good afternoon. I'm Vonda Porter, the Interim Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs, and I too want to express my thanks and appreciation to the military base for allowing our students to come out there and engage with your activities and to hopefully help you all work through some things and offer their expertise. So I really want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you again for continuing our MOU and agreement for spring. We are looking forward to being able to place many more students. And we have additional MOUs with the military base. We're looking at supply chain and logistics over in the business area. So I really, really am proud of our community engagement and collaboration, and I look forward to continuing our work with the military base. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. I would be remiss to say we do have also the other interns that are on this side of the wall. They also have presentations, but we are restricted to an hour. But just wanted to inform that there were other students part of the program that also had presentations as well. So once again, thank you all and have a good night. Bye.